All right. Thank you for staying with Daybreak. Let's start that conversation on several issues, matters politics, but ensuring that the young people's voices are heard across board. I'll introduce my guests real quick, beginning from my right. Wilkista Duma, Director Run for Office, is here. Thank you for making time. We have Nathaniel Mungare, Head of ICT and Programs at ANC. Thank you so much for making time as well.
Thank you for having me.
And on my left is Alenga Torostad, Political and Governance Commentator. Thank you for making time. We're waiting for John Mark Ketora, ODM Youth League President. As soon as he comes in, we will usher him into the conversation. But let's start off with what happened lately. Raila meets women leaders at ODM, and leader promises to mainstream women rights, say that they want government that is gender-based and compliant. And Wilkista, I'll start with you on this, because you've been pushing for this sort of rights for women. What really needs to be put in place to ensure that women have a fair fighting chance? Because you run for office, you know what's been happening there.
Right. I think starting from Azimio la Kina Mama, which is what the forum yesterday was pushing, is that women have been disenfranchised historically, especially with regard to being in the political field and in leadership. So for women as a bloc coming together to say that these are our aspirations and this is what we hope that Right Honorable Raila pushes for us once he enters power is, you know, something powerful in itself. Because even when you look at the women who attended Azimio la Kina Mama, we have a mix of women from the Western region and Mount Kenya region, and even people like Sabina Chege publicly saying they apologize for 2013, 2017, you know, race to power. And even the young women now in this particular space, because within the political circles, there's always a small tiff between the older women and the younger women, and whether the older women are really, you know, willing to hold the hands of younger women politically, as we see with, you know, our male counterparts. So to see even the young women taking the limelight in this particular event, you know, young women like Mayaka Nyakererio, you know, taking really the throes of power and saying that we are throwing our weight behind Raila, Right Honorable Raila, is also something to, you know, is also something to celebrate in this particular space. So I think in terms of the political participation of women, we have a number of issues that mar that space, and we know that they really make it hard for women to enter positions of leadership and authority. If we look at something like the Women Rep seat, which is an affirmative action, incentive to have more women in parliament. And the discussion right now is whether that seat is serving its purpose and whether all women are crowding to run for, you know, women rep positions as opposed to running for the other elective positions. The other thing is women, most women in this particular space do not own property. Therefore, their access to resources in terms of running for office is also very limited. So the women that have put themselves out there, and, you know, all the young women who honestly are not well-resourced, I think political parties need to figure out how they're going to push these women, because when you talk about women running at a political parties, ideally they're supposed to be party-sponsored candidates, and that's why we have political parties. So I think political parties need to step in very strongly to say that we are fronting these women to the people, and of course we are saying that we are sponsoring these particular women. And that does not go to say that women do not have the mettle to compete for political spaces and positions, because we've seen a number of women throw themselves in there into the murky water of politics and say that we are running for office and we are going to win this. Also, we've seen women who've been nominated to these positions and now have run very successful campaigns and continue to hold fort, you know, the likes of Honorable Millie Mabona. So, yeah.
Nathaniel, what is missing? Is it a lack of goodwill? How come we have not fostered the girl child or the ladies to come up and take up these positions as well? What is missing here?
First of all, Trevor, thank you for having me this morning. I think there is a total disconnect in terms of the empowerment of the women into leadership deliberately because of the high patriarchal nature of the Kenyan society. This is how the society has been, and it is a slow evolution. Over time and progressively, we are going to realize that more women are capable of leading this country. And the solution lies with political parties, because political parties can deliberately put affirmative actions to support and empower women to run for office. Yeah. And I'm happy with what Wekesa is doing to champion for more young people and women to run for office. It is a very good thing. So, and I will just challenge her to place more emphasis in reaching out to political parties, yeah, and asking us to work with our organization so that we can be able to see the areas of synergies in terms of how to identify women, capacity build them, and position them for leadership. And that is what precisely we are doing in ANC Party. Okay. We are very clear and targeted in what we are doing. We have a very vibrant women league that is given programs, and I happen to be the director of programs. We are also reaching out to more partners who are interested in supporting women to run for office. And when I see Azimio like in a mama, I see an utter lack of creativity from the ODM party, because these are people who wait. When we started One Kenya Alliance, they directly translated One Kenya Alliance into Azimio la Umoja, because otherwise how will you call One Kenya Alliance in Kiswahili? It is utter lack of creativity. We want to see the ODM party to be more robust in ingraining in their rank and file the issue of women. And I want to challenge the ODM party and Raila Amolo Odinga. Can you consider running, nominating a woman as your running mate? The same way in ANC, Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi is considering to nominate a woman as a running mate, either from within our rank or from within the possible coalition partners that we are going to engage going forward. So this is a challenge that we are giving ourselves because we don't want to pay lip service. We form lobby groups because we saw at some point there was the daughters of Raila, and most of these people never found themselves, or they were never given clear mandates in terms of how they're going to champion the nationalistic agenda that we are pursuing as a country. Yeah. So we don't want lobby groups to serve only the purpose of electing somebody into power, and then there are no clear outcomes after somebody has acquired that power. Yeah. We saw what happened in 2017. All these lobby groups that were pushing for the ODM candidature, they were betrayed at River Jordan. Eventually, in the negotiation that resulted into the handshake, we never saw women being positioned for appointments within the arrangement of the handshake. So I want to just push very categorically that we need political parties to be deliberate and emulated perhaps the example of what we are doing in ANC Party. We have a very clear policy platform with a policy proposition on how to empower women. And one of it is that we are preparing our candidates. Right now we have put out a call for aspirants. And this call, once we have received numerous applications so far. The elections board of the party is reaching out to these aspirants, training them, capacity building them, and giving them the basic skills of running a campaign. And therefore, later on, we will be able to arrange support for the women. So this is very clear and targeted, not just the empty rhetoric that we see in other political parties, like this similar lobby groups called Azimio la Umoja.
Okay. I like that you bring up the issue of inclusion. Let's talk about One Kenya Alliance, for example, the one that you're saying that Musalia Mudavadi should lead. So it's Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, Gideon Moi. Where are the women?
First of all, this is a very good challenge. The One Kenya Alliance is a concept. This concept called One Kenya Alliance is still broadening each day because we have not yet formalized the instruments of the coalition. You have not seen us going to the register of political parties and approaching her to say, these are the instruments that we are formally depositing with your office to formalize the alliance. So basically, this is still a concept. We are still having discussions and technical reports. Other than the principles that you are seeing, in that alliance, there are many, many women who are holding forth for the technical teams. For instance, we have a technical team that is preparing the common policy platform for the coalition, what will constitute the common coalition manifesto. We also have another technical team that is doing the formula of naming a flag bearer. And among all those technical teams, there are very powerful women. And most of them are they're holding positions within that loose alliance. And just to tell you, Trevor, the One Kenya Alliance, the whole idea is not just to have political parties within One Kenya Alliance. We want a broad movement with progressive entities and organizations. We are looking at the possibility of having trade unions on board. women groups, youth groups, and other progressive minds on board, not just political parties. When I hear people suggesting, like, for example, what Kanu was saying through Gideon Moi, that the possibility of working with Raila Amolo Odinga, I laugh, because One Kenya Alliance, the last political party that we will admit into One Kenya Alliance is Raila Amolo Odinga and ODM, because we will vet these people based on our experience with them. Because we know in the recent history, we were in NASA. We know the betrayal that was meted in the Kenyan people and the struggles that culminated in that betrayal. So we will not, we will rather admit a CBO in Nyamira County into One Kenya Alliance than admit ODM party into One Kenya Alliance because of the betrayal that they have been meeting of the Kenyan people.
Your party leader himself skipped Kitengela primaries. Are you sure you want to say that on national TV, knowing all too well that this is a game of musical chairs? So what happens if he's not elected as the leader of OCA? Then he decides to move and then join forces with the same people you're saying that he shouldn't join forces with.
Trevor,
is this a discussed party position, or is this your position?
I sit within the highest rank and file of ANC party. Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi will be on the ballot with OCA or not. Because...
So if he's not elected as a flag bearer for OCA, he's doing this alone?
With OCA or not, Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi will present his credentials and his track record at the ballot. Because we know the track record of Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi. Even the phone you're holding now, it is through the liberalization policies within the telecommunication sector in 1997 under the leadership of Musalia Mudavadi that we have the phones. It is through the liberalization in the finance sector in 1993 when he introduced KRA, when he introduced the autonomous Central Bank of Kenya, that we were able to curb inflation and see an accelerated economic growth after Jirongo introduced 500 shilling notes. So we are presenting Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi on the ballot on the basis of his track record.
But what then is the point of being in OCA if you've already decided that he's doing this whether he's elected as a flag bearer or not? So why don't you just go independent then? Are you lying to the rest of the people?
No, we are not lying. Are
you arm twisting them then?
No,
that if you don't pick us, we are going this
We are persuading our possible coalition partners that here is a man, if given an opportunity, he will not learn on the job. He will do the job. And we are reaching out to Kanu, to Wiper, to Ford Kenya, to convince them and persuade them that among all of you, the person who has the most acceptable national appeal is Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi.
And if they don't accept, you're still doing it anyway.
Even if they fail, that's why I say this is still a concept. We have not formalized the instruments of the coalition. If we fail in our persuasion, and this is where now negotiation comes in, because in politics about give and take, and that's why I said there's a technical committee in OCA that has prepared a formula of naming a flag bearer. And among them, they have to look at the appeal, and I happen to sit in that committee. We have to look at the appeal. We also have to look at the balance of the ticket, and we have to look at the question of numbers. Today, Trevor, if you go to the register of political parties, ANC is the third largest political party in this country, and we are counting. By December, we will see the surge in numbers. For example, Jubilee Party leads in terms of the numbers in their register, followed by ODM, and followed by ANC. So the third largest political party, if we go to, it's about question of numbers. If we go to the negotiating table with our possible partners, and we bring out the issue of numbers, that today, if you give us the flag bearer as ANC, we already have 1.5 million votes in our membership register, 1.5 million votes, people who have committed, they are renewing their subscription each day to the party, even without going to look for other votes outside the membership register. Therefore, Trevor, politics is about negotiation. And that's the nature of politics. If it doesn't work pre-election, we will present Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi at the ballot next year. We will make sure that we strengthen our party and win more electoral seats, because we are not just targeting the presidency. We are targeting to win other seats like MPs, members of county assembly, gubernatorial seats. This is the aim, because we want to form government. It will be pointless to have Musalia Mudavadi as president if we cannot implement our legislative agenda in parliament, or even support devolution through having sufficient governors. So we are looking at this thing in an omnibus manner. We are not just targeting one seat. So any coalition, and we don't want to suffer any loss that we suffered in NASA, because NASA disenfranchised ANC. We lost many electoral seats because of the negotiation that went that time, and we have learned our lessons. So we are not going to a similar route. And I can tell you, if we fail in our persuasion, we will present Musalia Mudavadi and possibly consider a post-election coalition agreement with other partners.
Okay, let me bring in Torostad on this. Torostad, this is a very interesting conversation. We're talking about the empowerment of women, but also you brought up the issue of coalitions and parties. Do you then, what do you hear from Nathaniel when he says that Musalia Mudavadi will be presented in the ballot one way or another, whether he's selected by Oka or not, he will be there?
Trevor, thank you for this opportunity to be on your show once again. We were having a very robust discussion about the disenfranchisement of women in our political space until Nathaniel decided to turn the whole discussion into a cold pitch for the ANC party. Well, that's his take on it, but it was wrong for him to trivialize such a very serious discussion. So if I would just want to draw back to it, I would say it's very clear that women have it's like a woman has to work 3 times more than a man to be able to succeed in our political space. And that is something we have reached a point of normalizing. Yeah. Number one, we have made our politics highly expensive, and therefore it's the men that have an upper hand, and they are ahead of the curve in terms of resource mobilization, in terms of connections and all that. Number two, we try to demonize women who try to step ahead and offer themselves for leadership positions. But then we have to reach a place where we have to reshape the conversation for gender mainstreaming in our politics. That is a keen discussion that we must bring in very brilliant minds to be able to shape that going forward. Our women are supposed to lead this nation. And then, and I think the point at which Nathaniel decided to digress and drive us into another road that would confuse us a little bit is because he was deeply indicted when you mentioned about the hierarchy of the ANC party and whether they pay cognizance to gender mainstreaming. I will tell you for a fact, the ANC party has only one lady who is in the leadership position of the ANC party. That is Margaret Enane. Away from her, I don't know if there is any other woman who has a position in the ANC party. And again, you raise a key issue about the One Kenya Alliance, which is a men-dominated room. It's more of it's like a locker room party, you know. So this is a thing about men, and that is why Nathaniel feels deeply embarrassed, and then he turns it around that Raila can actually step down his he can actually step down to go and meet women. Nathaniel is wondering, how is this possible? Because the ANC party cannot manage that. So we have to look at conversations and analyze them in a way that they can give us some premium and dividends going forward. Yeah. If you look at what happened yesterday, Right Honorable Prime Minister recognizing that women have a stake in the next election and actually attending that meeting at the Catholic University is a very important thing. Gender in this country is a complex issue, and you cannot fix it in one day. But if we have small steps like those being taken by I think the conveners of that forum, the ones that even the one for Daughters of Raila, those are small efforts. But if we continue pushing that way, we will eventually arrive somewhere. Okay. So if we approach gender from a point of dismissing the small efforts that others are making without necessarily telling us what you're doing yourself, you know, but the ANC party is very good at rubbishing anything and building for us Potemkin villages instead of, when you task them to tell you, okay, what are you going to do, number 1, 2, 3? Just tell us 3 things you're going to do to fix this. They will never tell you. They will take you into a very lengthy conversation. Nathaniel is spreading lies here. KRA was not a formation of Musalia Mudavadi. KRA was formed by an act of parliament. You cannot tell us that that is what Musalia Mudavadi did. He brought KRA. That's a lie that must be debunked before it progresses so much into the Kenyan people. Number 2, Musalia Mudavadi did not bring Central Bank. I don't know when he did that. Number 3, Musalia Mudavadi was the finance minister at a time when we suffered a heavy loss on our finances, up to the point of losing so much money in the Golden Bag scandal. You'll remember very well, if memory serves you well, during Musalia Mudavadi's time, the economy dwindled to a very dismal, to the abyss of it, until we had the mass retrenchment of workers in 1997. Those are things that we have to tell people. And then when you come to the table and tell us, we're going to put pesa mfukoni, we're going to expand the economy, man, those are lingos. You need to tell us the 1, 2, 3 points about it. This is how we're going to fix the economy. This is what we are going to do. And even going forward, it becomes very unnecessary when we get public space to be able to talk to our voters and tell them, this is what we are going to do as a leadership from this angle. And then we reduce that to boxing one another. You know, I don't know why Oka is so bitter even up to this point. Because you cannot form a coalition on the basis of, well, when we were in this coalition, these ones ate money, they refused to give us, and then you now want to make that a national agenda. We are not going to be part of your beef. We are not going to be part of your tax collection, your debt collection ventures. If you have debts, collect them in peace and then do what you want to do. Then come back and give us a national agenda. When you try to bring to us personal attributes like, oh, when we were in NASA, there was mischief, there was untrustworthy. Those are personal issues. Those cannot be nationalistic issues. When we come to the table here, we want to discuss issues like gender. We want to discuss issues like the economy. We want to discuss issues like youth and employment. I think in the fullness of time, Nathaniel will come to understand why he is in ANC and that position is in. You are not there because they want you to make a change. You are there because they want to appease a certain constituent that you represent. That is the young people. That Nathaniel is there. So if Nathaniel is here, your interests are catered for. So going forward, let's try to make these political discussions be people-centered, not personality-centered.
All right, Nathaniel, I'll give you a chance to respond, but let me bring in John Mark Ketora. John Mark Ketora is the ODM Youth League president. John Mark, before you walked in, we were talking about the Raila and Aida Azimio la Wanawake. When we were talking about it, it happened yesterday. The question was, how is this going to be different this time? We've always known that women somehow have been disenfranchised when it comes to political positions. What is going to be different this time?
Yeah, I think our constitution recognizes women and youth and disability as people, as marginalized groups. And being a society that is more men-dominated, there are a lot of cultural issues where we have come from as a country, as African people. So women, for a long time, has been relegated to mostly handle house chaos than coming out for leadership. Although even towards our struggle for independence, there are still women who came up and led communities and societies to struggle for independence. But once government was formed after independence, a lot of women were left behind. And you know very well that in the heart of Raila Odinga, Baba, women occupy a very special place in his heart. And even right now in Parliament, the party with the biggest number of women is ODM. We almost met the third threshold that was needed. And Baba has always clamored for women leadership, that women must also be given a chance as well as young people, because they have something that they will give to this, they will give it to the country. And we saw women who already who are there before, who are already now serving. We had the like of Ngilu, Mother Wangari Maathai, Mother Karua. So definitely Baba advocates for women leadership. And this one just, it did not start yesterday, because we are heading for an election maybe next year. Right, even in the party, when you go to ODM party, you look at the NEC, the composition of the NEC, the National Executive Council.
Yeah.
You'll see the quite number of women that are there, almost a third When you go even now, we have the Women League. That Women League has always been very much empowered. They have even come up with a manual, and now they have been given resources to go across the country to educate women on the importance of them joining politics.
Yeah.
And Baba is even out there that he says, even as I submit my list, the ODM list of candidates, we must meet the third gender threshold in that list that will go to IBC for those women who will contest for political positions.
Okay. And
even at my neck, where I sit from, Baba ensures that because we have a neck of 20, 7 of those people of those young people are young ladies. So it is in the heart of Raila Odinga. When you see the BBI bill that was brought, it was too much talking about women empowerment and how those women can be empowered. You saw something about the deputy governor. What happens when the man is a governor? The deputy governor then becomes a woman. So those are projections that indicates that as long as matters of women, they are in safe hands of nobody else but Raila Odinga.
Okay. I want us to wind up on this issue around women leadership and get into the election of corrupt officials. In fact, Martha Karua is the one who talked about it and said that we shouldn't be electing corrupt officials. But let me come back to you first, and then I'll give Nathaniel a chance to respond. Wilkista, you are dealing with a lot of women in the run for office as a director. What are they saying are their solutions for them? What do they want to see going forward? What will enable them to take up that leadership mantle without necessarily being handed to them? Yeah.
All right. I think I'd also like to chime in on part of the discussion when we talk about women. And clearly from the discussions we are having here, from what Nathaniel and my counterparts have said, you can see that the exclusion is structural. And it's a clearly thought out process to deliberately not have women in those particular decision-making spaces. For example, when you talked about Oka, and he said that women are in the technical committee, and it almost looks like we're relegating women to the back seats, you know, the driving forces behind these things, and to prove further that behind every successful man there's a woman. Well, the truth is that exactly. The thing is that we are relegating them to the back burner of these things. And even when you look at the structure of political parties, the women leagues and the youth leagues and the disability leagues sometimes go to double marginalize these groups within the political party, because when you go to seek for the mainstream leadership positions within the party, like, for example, the SG of the party, you're told that you're better off serving in the women league. And it's worse when you're a young woman, because you're told you either join the youth league or the women league. So it's a balance of trying to find where you belong, especially as a young woman. And I think we need to look at it like that. We need to look at the structural exclusion of women, of young people, of people with disabilities in the structures of the political parties, and even in the larger scheme of things, in the structures of the lobby groups that we use. And this is why we see women forming their own lobby groups. And I know it looks like women rallying behind agenda set by men, but really, where have we put our women in this particular conversation? And women are not people to be thrown in the back, because when you look at the campaigns, when you look at the election process, women are the voters. They are the voters that you can always count on, and they will show up on time. In fact, when you go to the polling station, you'll find Mama Mboga arrived there before anyone else, because she wants to cast her vote and go to the market to get her stock. When you go to the ground to look at how things are happening, women are the ones who are giving political parties visibility. I mean, you have people like Mama Chungwa. I don't think there's no one who doesn't know Mama Chungwa because of the visibility that she has given the party, and even carrying for the party colors and making the party as visible as it should be to the citizenry. When you look at women again as mobilizers, because when you're having these rallies, it's either mobilized by women or by youth. So we cannot say that, oh, we acknowledge that women have value. I mean, it should start from not saying that we know that there are values. It should start by it's it's women who are on the table as equals and not as, okay, we know, but they can bring this. It shouldn't be like that. It should be that women are on the table with everyone else discussing as it should be, because women are equal stakeholders and women have both intrinsic and instrumental value. So we need to take it up like that from a political party perspective and from, you know, even a civil society perspective, to see the value that women really bring. Okay. And when you talk about what are the solutions that young women, especially the ones who are running, are seeing as solutions to, you know, accessing power or even being in power themselves, is I am seeing more and more young women running for office. And we should really applaud that, because young women most of the time relegate themselves to working behind the scenes for the political parties so that they are then nominated into these positions. But what is happening right now, I think in the front page of the Daily Nation a week ago, we had young people who are running for office, different seats across the country. And we saw a young woman who said she was running for president. We saw a young man who said he was running for president. So I think what young women want, I know what young women want, is a level playing field to compete as everyone else should. Because when you enter the political field right now to run as a young woman, first of all, are you married? You know, have you led any household? Because it's an issue. If you're running in the rural ama nyumbani, they ask you, they know utaolewa, utaenda, ngombe will come and you will go. So what value are you really bringing back at home? So you see, young women are dealing with so much behind the scenes that we do not even get to see and to recognize that really when we're having a discussion about power, that women should be on that table. Okay.
Nathaniel, respond to this before we finish and start talking about the issue of electing corrupt leaders.
Yes, thank you. First, I think Alenga should stop calling himself a political commentator and call himself an ODM commentator. Because largely the way you're seeing his talking is indoctrinated by the ODM policies. And it's right to say so, to say what he's saying. In the ANC party, we don't believe that women just should hold position as symbols. We want to entrench programs that empower women within the rank and file of the party, and that is precisely what we are doing. And I want to invite Willie Kister to our party offices to audit and vet us out of goodwill and voluntary, so that she can be able to see the kind of things that we are doing for the women. And we should even, I'll be forwarding names to you for consideration in empowering in your organization, because that is how we should do. And these are the kind of partnership that personally I'm interested in as the director of programs. If you look at what we have done in the recent past, in the last 2 months, we prepared and launched a training manual for women aspirants. We did that openly and we invited the media. We have put together ideas and we are training our women aspirants on the basic tenets of running a campaign. How do you pick a campaign team? How do you mobilize for resources? How do you go out to campaign? How do you arrange for security? These are basic things that we have contained in the training manual for the women aspirants. In fact, I would like to give you a copy, and everyone else in this room. This is the gender mainstreaming that we have been deliberate about in our party. Mainstreaming the women, not only relegating them to the periphery of the women league in the party, but mainstreaming them in the party positions. For instance, the executive director of our party is a woman, as he said. The office of the executive director is the most powerful office within our institutional framework, because it is the centerpiece of the National Executive Board, and it is the one that liaises with the political wing of the party. A woman who has held that position for a long time, she is the one who is stabilizing the party and also working on the women programs and mainstreaming and making sure that we launch things like the Women League Charter, the training manual. You cannot trivialize by just saying that women don't hold positions as symbols, that there are no programs or an institutional framework that entrenches women in the ANC party. The other thing that I wanted to debunk, and this is a matter of fact, is on MM's track record. He clearly said that the assertion that I made here, that Musalia Mudavadi is the one who started KRA, it is in the public record. You can go to the Hansard, and it's good you do your research before you come to counter arguments. Because if you look at the Hansard in 1996, the person who sponsored the KRA Act is Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. You can check this, and the public can check this. When he came in, KRA was just an income tax department within the Treasury. It was called the VAT department. But he saw that this is an income tax department that cannot mobilize resources for the country or put money together for us to pay for our national goals or the national budget. That's why he sponsored the KRA Act 1966. So it is under his name and under his stewardship. So you can be able to check this. The same thing happened to the CBK, the Central Bank of Kenya Act. When he came in, the governors of Central Bank did not even have security of tenure. They were indefinite. There was no autonomy in the Central Bank. That time, Jirongo had printed 500 shilling note. Everybody had 500 shilling note. If you could ask for change, everybody could not. In fact, it was a serious inflation, double inflation. In contrast to what you said, he is the one who reversed the inflation to a single digit. So these are the issues that are in the public domain. You can check them out. This is not propaganda. And regarding my appointment in the party, it is not just to serve the youth folk, because the party believes in me as a young person, but it is also because of the competency and the credentials that I bring to the party. Yeah. And that's why they are seeing this. So it is not just because I'm a Kisi from Nyamira or I'm a youth. It is because also of the competency that I'm putting forward. And finally, Trevor, our policy platform of Uchumi Bora Pesa Mfukoni is as clear as day. If you are given today two choices between Daktari wa Uchumi, Musalia Mudavadi, and Daktari wa Mahaslas, you will choose somebody who has a clear policy platform. For instance, if you want taxation to go up, if you want overborrowing to happen in the next dispensation, then elect ODM, because they are promising a token of 6,000 shillings every month, which is basically a welfare state, which is unsustainable. If the government today is unable to sustain the 2,000 shillings cash transfer to the old people above the age of 70, how will the government sustain 6,000 shillings for all the young people who are unemployed? This is an unsustainable welfare state that will lead to taxation, because the only way to sustain this is to increase taxation or to go around the world na bakuli ya kuomba. Okay. That is the only way you can be able to sustain this problem. On the other side, you are seeing the issues of bottom-up, which is a good thing, because in our manifesto, we are all-encompassing. We are saying uchumi bora kwa wote. We grow the economy so that everybody can benefit, whether at the top, middle, or the bottom. This is what we call Uchumi Bora Pesa Mfukoni policy platform. And we have very many issues. We will unpack. If you give me a whole day, I will unpack the basic tenets of the Uchumi Bora manifesto. And among them, Trevor, just to highlight one or two, one is the issue of to revitalize agriculture. The simple questions, Kenya is 90% dependent on agriculture. We want to make sure that we revive the industries. For instance, Chemilil in the sugar sector, Mumias, we have Muoroni. All these industries within the sugar sector should be revitalized, because the sugar belt is dependent by more than 8 million people. Okay. And we have seen what the government of the day has done, crippling the agricultural sector. All right. If you go to my constituency in North Mugrango, my farmers are paid 7 shillings as tea bonuses, while farmers from the other regions are paid 40 shillings a kilo. This is the disparity in the bonuses in the tea sector that we want to address through the Uchumi Bora, so that everybody can be able to put money in the pocket. Okay. Ours is to grow the economy for everyone, not just for the 6,000 people, which is unsustainable, and for the wheelbarrow people. Okay. Yes. So the only people who actually represent parties here is yourself and John Mark Ketora. So let's hear from John Mark, because you've mentioned ODM there. John Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. You see, before 2002, actually the country was in a sleeping mode. Nothing was happening substantially. That one includes the KRA that they purport to have created. I don't know, the central bank. Our economy was in negatives. So this country started realizing even the importance of KRA when the NAC government came in. That is where most of the institutions were transformed. And we give that credit to my party leader, Raila Odinga, because we all know that he's the one who brought that government at that time. And now, when you got in that time, when he was the Minister for Roads, you know the infrastructure that came in, including the Thika Highway and many other things. Those other roads sectors like Kura, Kendra, and all those things. And you know what he did when he was the prime minister, issues of the economy. So what we are just saying is that why we want the bottoms up people to be clear on what they mean. Because why do they use symbols that are very hard to understand? Why don't they simplify issues, economy issues, that can be understood by the mama mboga they purport to talk to, the boda guy whom they want to talk to? Because they know once they simplify those things, they are going to be, the Kenyans are going to take them into account. You remember last time when they came and said we are building, stadiums are being completed. We have laptops that we are issuing to class 1 kids. Those things did not come to happen. And what we are telling them, when we say about devolution, when we started clamoring for devolution, they said we are creating majimbos, we are creating small countries within a country. But just see how the impact that devolution has created. Well, now we are talking about stipends, the 6,000 stipends. We know we know the button to press. They say devolution cannot work. And we are now telling them, see, devolution has worked. We want to just adjust some elements of devolution. One is we must kill corruption in at the county level, corruption at the national level, so that when the money that go down there go to accomplish, they accompany those functions and they are implemented, and that money is spent to the last coin. And we have even gone ahead and said, let's now increase that money that goes to devolution, and take that money and even create a ward fund. Yeah. And we are saying the ward is going to be the basics of development. When you make the ward a basic of the development, there are going to be new hospitals that will be built, that will come with employment. There are going to be roads. There are going to be all social amenities. And it's going to empower those young people, those wamama mboga huko chini. All they are going to be empowered, inclusive in an inclusive way. So when we say we are working for the economy, we have internalized issues of factors of the economy in this country, and therefore we know we are in safe hands when it comes to Raila Odinga's leadership. All right. And that is a sure bet to all Kenyans. The
politicians, you will never agree. So let's talk about other things. Let's talk about something to do with corruption. Now, can I have some feedback now before we switch into that conversation? This is a conversation that was brought up by Martha Karua earlier on, and she said that you need to elect leaders who are not corrupt, leaders whose hands have not been tainted. But let me start with you, Torostad, on this. How can the youth ensure that happens, whereas we are stuck in almost like a jigsaw puzzle? At the same time, those same leaders tell you, you can take their money, but elect someone whose name has not been tainted. Are we still just fostering corruption anyway? And how then do we ensure that the leaders who are elected have not been mentioned anywhere?
Trevor, first and foremost, let me just draw back a little bit because Nathaniel mentioned my name directly. I think I think when Nathaniel came into this discussion, he had a clear brief from the party to come and sell its agenda. That's not what we are really interested in, because there are thousands, millions of viewers outside here who are neither ANC nor ODM or whatever party. They just want to listen to issues that we can articulate here and learn something from them and get a solution that we are doing. So I think in the interest of that, we must manage Nathaniel so that he doesn't keep digressing us from the important subjects. And also just to tell Nathaniel, Musalia Mudavadi comes from the same area with me, so if there's anyone to talk about his track record, then it should be me. If I don't see any track record, but all the way from Kisii he's seeing, that's fantastic. We have different wavelengths. Now back to the point of corrupt leaders into politics. We must look at this wholesomely and not piecemeal, because our elections are highly commercialized in the sense that for you to become a politician, then you must dish out a lot of money. And then this now drives those who are interested in politics to go and look for the money. So when we give them state positions or heads of agencies, they have to loot as much money as they can so that they can come and buy that election. And when these people get into office, because they have invested into this, they have bought it with their cash, so they will have to spend the rest of the 5 years trying to get back their money. And then we as the common citizens out here start waiting for work to be done. It cannot be done. So we must change our politics in the way that we are able to introduce other parameters where we judge leaders. We're not going just to judge you according to how much money you have given us, but then are we going to reach a level where we can now judge people according to, based on the content of their ability, character, and personality? What is it that you're bringing on the table? That is why it is fundamental for us to reach a point where we criticize and we ask the relevant questions. That is why we confront people like Nathaniel to tell us, you're going to fix the economy, but what is the 1, 2, 3 steps you're going to take? Don't just give us a slogan, Uchumi Bora. That is, I mean, Africa has never moved with slogans. We want to get the real 1, 2, 3 steps. When we go to the ODM party, we want them to come forth and tell us, this is what we are going to do, 1, 2, 3. When we go to the Jubilee party, when we go to UDA, we expect that. So I don't know why politicians and their people get agitated and they are vexed when you try to ask them, okay, tell us in a nutshell, what is that you're going to do? So when we go to that, when we go down to that issue-based politics, then your money will not be really relevant, because you are coming forth as a Kenyan to explain to us in detail, this is how I'm going to revive your economy. This is number 1 step that I'm going to do. When for instance, Musalia Mudavadi says he's going to cut taxation by 50%. What does that mean? I mean, how is it going to be institutionalized? And what is the benefit of that? And then how do you now balance the country now that you have slashed taxation by 50%? What is the dividend that I accrue as a common person? When we talk about having a social welfare policy from the ODM party of 6,000, where is it that we're going to get this money? In a country where corruption is rampant, how are we going to make sure, to ensure that this 6,000 actually reaches a family in Marsabit which is living in abject poverty? They cannot afford even a meal a day, you know. So those are the kind of issues we are supposed to interrogate. But when we reach a cultic moment where you know, it's like a deism moment where you don't question, we are right, you know, when we say this, we know how we are going to fix it. So that is the ingredient that is lacking in our politics, that issue-based politics. Yeah. So when there is no issue-based politics, then now it drops down. It's relegated to the highest bidder, and that is why we connect the same issue with the fate of women. They cannot raise this much money, and maybe they are the missing link in fixing our governance issue. Maybe they are the ones who just have that ingredient, and they could fix our economy. Why aren't we giving them an opportunity by levelizing the playing field, so that I don't need to have 20 million to go and vie for the MP Vihiga constituency? I don't have to be subjected to a test when I go and tell my people in Vihiga constituency I want to vie as the MP. The first question is, how much money do you have? So that pushes people to stealing money so that they can go and corrupt the electoral system. Yeah. But then another fundamental issue we need to ask ourselves, who commits a lot of corruption in this country? Some people have said it is politicians, but if you look at it clearly, it is not politicians do a very small fraction of graft in this country. Much of the graft is done by common citizens, you and I, who get appointed as the MD Kenya Pipeline, and I decide every day I'll be stealing 50 million. When I'm at KPA, I decide every day I'll be stealing 20 million so that I can give my tribal kingpin 10 million to fund his election, and then I remain with 10 million. And then when I am arrested, I will lift my hands and say, I am the king. I am being vilified for no good earthly reason. And then after a few minutes, my posters will be out in my party of choice that condones corruption, and I'll be elected as the MP for a particular area or a governor for a particular area. So So we must come back to a point where we question ourselves, what is the role of money in our elections? Why are we even having budgets for electoral positions? Why are we even having IEBC reaching a point of telling us, for you to be elected this position, you must have this amount of money, for governor this amount of money? Where does that money come from? Let's say, for instance, if you're telling me for me to be an MP or a governor, I need a budget of 20 million. In a normal Kenyan setup, how many years of work would you need to work to get an extra 20 million that you're just ready to spend without blinking? And this 20 million is not really a matter of life and death. If you spend all of it, now you live in abject poverty. So we must question those things and start asking ourselves, where is this money coming from? This money is coming from within us. And then when it is stolen, back home we are given 200 shillings. And 200 shillings will pay for it for the next 5 years.
Okay, I have to take a quick break now. That's a very interesting subject that we're getting into now, talking about corruption in the party politics as well as the general election as well. But let me bring up some of your feedback before we take that quick break. Bring up the first one, see what you're saying. Wamalwa Oricha says, when I see Azimio like in a mama, I see an utter lack of creativity from the ODM party. They directly translated One Kenya Alliance to Azimio la Umoja. That's according to what Nathaniel Mongare said, challenging Raila Odinga to nominate a woman as a running mate. That is what Nathaniel said earlier on. Kent says the problem of women in politics is that there is an expectation that women will get seats specifically set aside for women, e.g. women rep. This weakens them. Women should be empowered to join the mud and fight for these positions too. Makoti Mobimba says, question to Nathaniel, what is the gender composition of the leadership of ANC? Engineer Lazaro says new crops of youthful minds in ANC should advise Madividi to come up with his own robust manifesto, not only criticizing others as if he is already confirming his future fate in opposition. Jacob Abere says youths have narrow chances of being part of inner circle in politics. Main reasons, they have been used in archery and Trojan horse careers. Example, ANC boy Mongare need not speak about others. Let him elaborate youth policies in ANC. Keegan Koech says, which women with the political party has come forth to join OCA principles in the race to be its flag bearer? Women should perhaps start by leading parties. To say they are being sidelined is false and misleading. Okay. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're still talking about the issue of corruption. We'd like to hear your views on that as well. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. Torostad says we are the ones who foster corruption even more than the leaders out there. Martha Karua was warning people earlier on not to elect any leader that has any tainted image on them. All right, see you in just a bit.